Hello everyone, this is Amateur. Welcome to my channel where we just talk about life, hobbies, politics, ideologies, what have you. And on today's video, I'm going to be kind of responding, more so just talking about a video that was posted by Armo Wit. Again, that account was recommended to me by Chromax, but she was responding to a news article about someone saying all men are potential rapists. And I just think that that obviously needs to be discussion. So just from my background, I actually am a little bit more trained in this than most others. I'm a victim advocate for those that have been raped. And so we do have to do this pretty extensive training to just making sure that we're qualified to support those individuals. But along these lines, like one let's talk about sex. So sex is so much different than any other action because it is something that is or can be wanted. So it's not something typically like thievery or murder or vandalism. It's like things that you don't necessarily ask, because if you ask someone to take something from you, that's not them stealing it, that's you giving it to them, which is the transaction, the relation is just different. So so the thing with sex is that it's a transaction that for the most part is wanted mutually, and it's something that's revered, and there's these coy games that typically have to be played, people have to ask or without being weird and creepy about it, and it's like this really odd dynamic that we still kind of have to regulate. And right now, for the most part, it's been regulated to if there is zero consent between one of the two partners, and that is rape, more or less. And then you'll have the feminist side kind of make rape into, like, they try to lighten the severity of what rape actually is by saying, oh, you catcalled me, that's rape. No, don't do that. And so just speaking along those lines, oh shoot, hold on, let me throw a little bit of the clip into the video so you can see what I'm talking about.
Author says is few women rape, so women are not potential rapists. Most rapists are men, so all men are potential rapists. The author implies that the number of female rapists cannot be a reason why she believes it is wrong to generalize all women as potential rapists. This means the author doesn't deny that not all rapists are men, yet calls all men as potential rapists. She could at least say most men are potential rapists and few women are potential rapists, instead of stereotyping all men as potential rapist while denying any woman being a potential rapist. Did you see the exaggeration?
And so obviously rape is something that can occur on both sides. However, a lot of the talking points, we'll see the dynamic occur specifically between a man aggressor and a female victim. And that's not to say that, well, that's actually kind of my point here, is especially with these reported cases. I think it's just one that both men and women, like, we understand that we're inherently different and we have to approach sex differently because of that. So for men, they don't have to. I mean, the laws try to make them approach it differently, but that's still not always the case. But men aren't necessarily tied to the physical changes of having to support and carry a child like a woman is, where she is literally, disbanded, disarmed for at least 9 months, and then some for actually just to take care of a baby with her body and her life support. So men and women approach sex differently, one. But again, like, we're different in these gender stereotypes. Some of them are founded in biology, but men don't get enough, I don't say praise, but enough attention to the problems that they face. I'm not necessarily a male activist or advocate or anything. Definitely not a feminist, but it's just a matter of I just want equal treatment, especially when it comes to the law. that's reasonable and rational. You know what I mean? So, but especially when it comes to men, and especially in issues of rape, that there is not enough attention given to men within this sphere, because this is part of our trouble and part of our struggle as victim advocates, is that it's part of the problem, and it's not necessarily a problem, but it's just how we view men and women in general, and the unfortunate biases that are around both men and women, and how we're perceived and how we're expected to act and report and comport ourselves. And so especially with men, like, they're expected to be strong, expected to be resilient, expected to be able to handle themselves, and to take care of themselves, which is true to an extent. It's like I think we understand the importance of the brotherhood and of the fraternity and of men having the other men around them to keep that community. But even then, there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure that goes with being a man, and I've said this in other videos. And part of it is the pressure that makes a man, if that makes any sense. And if you go watch some of my other videos, especially as it pertains to feminism, you'll kind of see the thought process and logic there. But men don't report as often as women do. That's a fact. They don't. And part of it is because of the stigma and the perception that comes with men involved in situations of rape. So that's one of it. Two, a lot of the times is they often question themselves, as far as with, am I not a man? Like, I mean, women do it all the time, and it's not okay. But women do it all the time as far as with questioning a man's masculinity and his manhood, because if he is not turned on by her, or he is not wanting sex with her at that moment, because there's this idea that men just need to be dogs, and they need to be always lustful and always thinking with their penis, and if they're not hard, then, and you are just some fine little piece or whatever, and they're not turned on by you, well, then they must be gay, or they must be a homosexual, or they must not actually like women, or they must, something must be wrong with them and not wrong with the woman, obviously, because women can do no wrong. But there's that thought process there. And then, I mean, freaking Cardi B said it. I don't know why this hasn't been said, but she would also drug men, take men away, and it's like men don't get to have the same outward response that women do. It's not that they don't get to, but it's just it's not the same. It's so hard to articulate the different pressures. For me, it's frustrating, because it's like, I don't care if you're a man or a woman. I don't care how big and bad of a man that you're supposed to be, but go freaking seek help, you freaking idiot. With love. But for me, it's just men don't, poor things. Men don't get to have that same reliance on an outside authority or outside figure. I mean, this was kind of the problem too with Terry Crews and his story that he came out. I might be able to show a clip of it.
Hearing for the Sexual Assault Bill of Rights. Now, it was back in October that Terry admitted that he was sexually assaulted by a Hollywood agent at a party where the man grabbed Terry's crotch. After he testified, 50 Cent mocked Terry on Instagram with this meme of Terry that reads, let me see here, I got raped, my wife just watched, gym time. And then 50's caption was, LOL, what the F is going on out here, man? Terry, I froze in fear. They would have had to take me to jail, get the strap.
Yeah, so what do you think of 50 Cent mocking Terry? This is what Terry said during his testimonial, but why he didn't stop the attack.
The first reaction was to be violent. And I immediately held back.
Why weren't you? You're a big, powerful man. Why didn't you?
But yeah, so he came out and he was saying he was sexually groped, sexually touched, and no one, he's looked at, he didn't protect himself the way that he could have or should have. He didn't get mad, he didn't get angry, he didn't respond with that physical force that is kind of expected of men. And then obviously there's this whole racial thing. Well, he's this big black man getting angry, and then and then all the things that go along with that perception. And then there's also some things where it's like, yeah, dude, like, what were you thinking? Like, you should have, you're expected to, like, where you're like, you did lose your manhood. And so there's just negative reinforcement, I guess, of him coming out and sharing his story and all those other things. And so it's just this really, really odd dynamic in the manosphere amongst men, especially when it comes to them being the victim of rape, which is like, no one wants to talk about it. Men don't even like to talk about it, which is part of the problem. But it's not to say that it doesn't exist, but it's definitely looked over way more than it is for women, and that's just part of, I want to say it's part of the culture, because it's just quite unfortunate. It just is. I don't really know how to articulate it, but the point of this was, especially with her bringing up this video, is that yes, both men and women are capable of rape, and as it would seem, it's more reported. And even then, they say that that number that's reported by women is also underreported. Who's to freaking know for sure? But yeah, but for me, the concern, especially amongst the manosphere and amongst men, and this attitude of weakness, because no one wants to be weak. I mean, that you might just be at that time because you haven't trained to be stronger than the point that you were, if that makes any sense. But I just thought it was a very important topic to highlight and bring to light, because it's not talked about enough, and unfortunately I don't know what the best way is to address this issue, especially among men, because I think it's just so horrible. It's just so horrible that feminists think that men are the enemy, like men in general are the enemy. Like, just by the act of having a penis, you are evil, and that's not okay. It's not the case. And that's not to say that there aren't some evil men, but there are definitely some evil women as well. And so I think, especially in the rape topic, that we don't trivialize the different effects that each sex has to go through when it comes to such a very sensitive issue like that. So it's like almost like they're weaponizing rape against men. It's so weird how to phrase that, but not okay, not good. Not, because I don't know if I even like that all men are potential rapists. It's like, yes, but no. I don't know. I think Jordan Peterson was saying something like that, as far as with what you want, it being the nature of the man. So it's like a lion it's in his nature to kill, but you want that nature there but tamed, as opposed to a rabbit who has no sense of fear-inducing terror unless you read freaking, what is it, Banicula? You remember that book about the rabbit, the bunny rabbit Dracula or whatever? I don't know. I digress. But anyway, this is the point about the problem is never men itself, it's how people act. So I don't know if I've been saying this a lot of my videos. It's always everything is always going to come down to morals, how you act, how you ought to behave, how you ought to do things. So the problem isn't that men are bigger, stronger, faster. It's when those men use it in a way to wreak havoc and destruction and things that aren't good. But we want that same strength, aggressiveness, and power to combat the negative, you know? So you want a stronger, bigger, faster man to compete and beat the evil man. I digress though, but not all men are rapists. Not all men are even potential rapists. There are just some men who aren't even, like, they couldn't even overpower a woman if they tried. But what the heck do I know? I'm just an amateur. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And I will catch you in the next video.